The mind and behavior are very complicated subjects, and it's impossible for anyone to know everything about them. However, you can try your best to understand as much as you can. Psychology is the field of study that looks at different aspects of the mind and behavior, and that's what we will be discussing in the upcoming chapters. It's important to try to use what you learn in your everyday life. This way, you can actually benefit from the knowledge. So, let's not delay any longer and start exploring what we have prepared for you. First, what is psychology? Psychology is a field of science that focuses on understanding the mind and behavior. It looks at both the conscious and subconscious parts of the mind. This subject is very complex and requires a lot of research. After doing a lot of studies, psychologists create principles that help them understand how minds and behaviors work. A person who studies psychology is called a psychologist. They can also be known as cognitive, behavioral, or social scientists. Psychologists study how people think and behave, and they try to connect these behaviors with biological reasons that might cause them. The main goal of psychology is to help people in every way possible. Psychology isn't just useful in hospitals, it can be helpful in many different areas of life. No matter what profession you are in, you can use principles from psychology to improve your work and benefit from it. For example, teachers use psychology to understand how students learn best, and managers use it to motivate their employees. By applying what we learn from psychology, we can make our daily lives better and more effective. Next, pioneers of psychology. Like any other science, psychology went through times when there wasn't much clear knowledge about it. Many researchers were working hard to understand it, but they weren't finding anything very useful. Then came William James, who introduced a new way of thinking called functionalism. James believed that the mind is very complex and always changing. Because of this, he thought it was pointless to try to find the basic building blocks of what the mind experiences. Instead, he suggested that we should focus on how and why people behave the way they do. The main idea of functionalism is to look for the reasons behind people's behaviors and connect those reasons to the mental processes that might be involved. By understanding the purpose and function of different behaviors, we can better understand how the mind works. This approach helped to make psychology more practical and useful, shifting the focus from just observing behaviors to understanding the underlying causes. It marked a significant step forward in the study of psychology, making it more effective in explaining and predicting human behavior. Another important figure in the early days of psychology is Wilhelm Wundt. He developed an approach called structuralism. Although structuralism didn't turn out to be very successful, and the results weren't very reliable, Wundt is still considered a pioneer in psychology. This is because he established the first ever laboratory dedicated to psychological research and experiments. This laboratory played a crucial role in the development of modern psychology. Before Wundt's work, psychology was often seen as similar to philosophy because both fields involved studying the mind. However, Wundt helped to separate psychology from philosophy by creating more standardized procedures for psychological research. By doing this, Wundt laid the groundwork for psychology to become a distinct and respected science. His efforts helped to establish methods that researchers could use to study the mind and behavior in a more systematic and scientific way. This separation allowed psychology to grow and develop as its own field, distinct from philosophy, and led to the advances in understanding the mind and behavior that we benefit from today. Next, how it works. When psychologists conduct research, they follow specific systematic steps. They collect data and then make conclusions based on this information. These conclusions turn into principles that can be used to understand general patterns. This process is more complex than it seems. For instance, when we say that people who sleep a lot might be distressed or depressed, it's not just a guess. This statement is backed by extensive research. Researchers work very hard to gather data on a specific topic. They might conduct experiments with hundreds or even thousands of people to see what the results show. These results are carefully analyzed to find logical patterns and explanations. Psychology is a broad field that covers many different topics. including memory, learning, motivation, perception, sensation, emotion, intelligence, thinking, personality, social behavior, and language. Each of these areas is studied in great detail. Researchers critically evaluate all the information before making any general statements. Psychological research involves a lot of careful work and thorough analysis to understand complex human behaviors and mental processes. This detailed and systematic approach helps ensure that the conclusions drawn are accurate and reliable. This was just a short introduction to psychology. There is much more to learn about this fascinating subject. In the upcoming chapters, we will cover all the important details. We will talk about the different branches of psychology, like clinical, cognitive, and social psychology. We will also discuss the major theories that have been developed over time. Psychology is an incredibly interesting topic, and you will see this as we go deeper into the subject. We will make sure you understand all the key points and concepts. As we explore these topics, you will discover how psychology helps us understand the mind and behavior. So get ready to dive in and learn a lot more about this exciting field. Now, you are well aware of what psychology is. The next important thing to know is the major branches that psychology has. It covers almost all the aspects of a human mind. Those are, next, psychopathology. As the name suggests, this branch of psychology deals with mental health problems that affect the brain's psychological functions. Many psychotherapists and clinical psychologists work in this field to help people with these issues. These mental health problems include conditions like depression, obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, bipolar disorder, sexual disorders, and many others. In simple terms, this branch focuses on diseases and disorders that are related to the mind. These are problems that have a psychological cause and affect how a person thinks, feels, and behaves. By understanding and treating these conditions, psychotherapists and clinical psychologists help people improve their mental health and overall well-being. Next, behavioral psychology. As we mentioned earlier, behavioral psychology is a theory that is still important in the field of psychology. It is also known as behaviorism. This theory focuses on the idea that all behaviors are learned through experience and practice. In technical terms, this process of learning through practice is called conditioning. There are two main types of conditioning in behaviorism: operant conditioning and classical conditioning. Operant conditioning involves learning through rewards and punishments. For example, if a child gets praised for doing their homework, they are more likely to do it again. On the other hand, if they are scolded for not doing their homework, they are less likely to skip it in the future. Classical conditioning involves learning by association. A famous example is Pavlov's dogs, where dogs learn to associate the sound of a bell with food, and they would start salivating just by hearing the bell. Behaviorism became very popular in the early 20th century. However, by the 1950s, it started to lose some of its influence as other theories emerged. Despite this, techniques from behavioral psychology are still widely used in many therapies today. Behavioral psychology emphasizes the importance of learning in shaping behavior. Through conditioning, whether operant or classical, individuals learn and develop new behaviors. These principles are still applied in various therapeutic practices to help people change unwanted behaviors and develop positive ones. Next, biopsychology. This branch of psychology focuses on how the brain influences the way people behave over time. It looks at how the brain affects a person's overall personality and behavior patterns. This area of psychology is also called physiological psychology or behavioral neuroscience. In this branch, we also study the endocrine system, which is the collection of glands that produce hormones. These hormones can affect how neurons, nerve cells, work. Since this field is part of biopsychology, it also involves studying the structure of neurons to understand how they function and how they influence behavior. In simpler terms, this branch of psychology examines the connection between the brain and behavior. It explores how different parts of the brain and the nervous system work together to shape the way we act and think. By studying the brain structure and the nervous system, psychologists can better understand why people behave the way they do and how their personalities develop. Next, cognitive psychology, the branch of psychology that focuses on understanding how we think, pay attention, solve problems, make decisions, and what motivates us is called cognitive psychology. This is one of the most fascinating areas of psychology because it deals with some very complex and abstract topics. In cognitive psychology, researchers study how people process information. They look at how we remember things, how we learn new information, and how we use what we know to solve problems. They also explore how we make choices and what drives us to take action. For example, cognitive psychologists might study how our brains focus on important information while ignoring distractions, or how we come up with solutions to difficult problems. They might also investigate how we decide between different options and what factors influence our motivations. Because it covers such a wide range of mental processes, cognitive psychology helps us understand the inner workings of the mind. It sheds light on how we think and why we behave in certain ways, making it a key area of study for anyone interested in the human mind. Next, comparative psychology. In general, before we try something new on people, we usually test it on animals first. This is also true in the field of comparative psychology. Comparative psychology is the study of animal behavior and how it relates to human behavior. Scientists observe and analyze how animals act in different situations. Then they compare these animal behaviors with how humans behave. By doing this, they can develop theories and principles that help explain human psychology. Studying animals gives us valuable insights into our own minds. For example, by understanding how animals learn, communicate, and solve problems, we can learn more about how humans do these things too. This approach helps researchers discover fundamental aspects of human psychology that might not be obvious if we only studied people. By looking at the similarities and differences between animal and human behaviors, comparative psychology allows us to gain a deeper and more comprehensive understanding of how the human mind works. Next, cross-cultural psychology. Just like many other things, people's behaviors are different depending on the culture they come from. This is what cross-cultural psychology focuses on. Cross-cultural psychology is the study of how cultural factors influence human behavior. Experts in this field look at how people from different cultures think, feel, and act. They study a wide range of factors that might affect behavior, such as values, traditions, social norms, morals, and ethics. For example, in some cultures it might be normal to show respect by bowing, while in others people might show respect by shaking hands. These different ways of behaving are shaped by the cultural environment people grow up in. Researchers have known for a long time that culture plays a big role in shaping behavior. Different cultures have different sets of morals and ethics, which lead to different patterns of behavior. For instance, the importance of community and family might be emphasized more in some cultures, leading to behaviors that are more group-oriented. In contrast, other cultures might value individualism, leading to behaviors that focus more on personal achievement and independence. By studying these differences, cross-cultural psychology helps us understand why people from different parts of the world behave the way they do. This knowledge is valuable because it can improve communication and understanding between people from different cultures, making it easier to work together and respect each other's differences. Cross-cultural psychology examines how culture influences behavior. It reveals that different cultures create different behavioral patterns due to variations in values, morals, and ethics. Understanding these differences helps us better understand the diverse ways people think and act around the world. Next, developmental psychology. Developmental psychology is a very complex area of psychology. In this field, we look at how people grow and change throughout their entire lives, from before they are born until they die. We start by studying the earliest stages of life, even before a baby is born. This is called the prenatal stage. Then, we continue to study all the different stages people go through as they grow up and get older. We try to understand why and how people change over time. Developmental psychology considers all kinds of changes that happen in a person's life. These changes can be physical, like how our bodies grow and age. They can also be emotional, such as how our feelings and ways of handling emotions evolve. Social changes, like how we interact with others and form relationships, are also important. Intellectual development is studied too, which looks at how our thinking and problem-solving abilities improve. Personality changes, which are about how our character and traits develop, are also examined. Finally, perceptual development, which is about how we understand and interpret the world through our senses, is another key area. This field doesn't just look at these changes in general. It also studies many theories about how children develop, and it addresses various issues related to development. For example, researchers might explore questions like why some children learn to talk earlier than others, or how different parenting styles affect a child's development. By studying all these aspects, developmental psychology helps us understand the journey of human life in detail. It gives us insights into the various stages people go through and the many factors that influence their growth and development. This knowledge is useful for helping people at different stages of life and for addressing developmental challenges they might face. Next, educational psychology. Nowadays, there is a growing trend of providing psychological awareness and training to both teachers and students. This trend falls under the field of educational psychology. Educational psychology focuses on understanding and addressing all the issues and concerns related to students and their learning environments. Educational psychologists aim to create strategies that help students learn more effectively and perform better in school. They study how students learn and what factors might influence their learning, such as their environment, teaching methods, and personal challenges. To achieve this, educational psychologists work closely with parents, students, teachers, and school administrators. They might develop new teaching techniques, design better classroom environments, or provide support for students who have learning difficulties. They also train teachers to recognize and address various psychological needs of their students, helping them to create a supportive and effective learning environment. Educational psychologists also focus on understanding the different ways students learn and finding methods to accommodate these differences. For example, some students might learn better through hands-on activities, while others might prefer reading or listening. By identifying these preferences and needs, educational psychologists can help tailor educational approaches to benefit all students. Additionally, they might address issues such as student motivation, classroom behavior, and mental health. They provide guidance on how to manage stress, cope with academic pressure, and develop positive relationships with peers and teachers. Educational psychology is about improving the learning experience for students by understanding their needs and challenges. By working with teachers, parents, and school administrators, educational psychologists aim to create a better educational environment where all students can thrive. Next, experimental psychology. Experimental psychology is a modern branch of psychology that focuses on using scientific methods to learn more about the human brain and behavior. This field uses experiments and studies to understand how people think, feel, and act. In experimental psychology, researchers conduct various types of experiments to gather data and test theories about human behavior. These experiments can take place in a lab or in real-world settings. By carefully controlling and observing different factors, psychologists can discover patterns and make connections between different aspects of behavior and brain function. This scientific approach is very useful for gaining deeper insights into many areas of psychology. For example, experimental psychology can help us understand developmental psychology better by revealing how people's behavior changes as they grow and develop. It can also shed light on social issues by showing how people interact with others and how their social environment affects them. Over time, more and more research has been done in this field, leading to a better understanding of various psychological phenomena. Researchers might study how memory works, how people make decisions, how emotions influence behavior, or how different parts of the brain are involved in different tasks. The findings from experimental psychology are important because they can be applied in many areas of life. For instance, they can help improve educational methods, create better mental health treatments, or develop more effective communication strategies. Experimental psychology is a modern and scientific approach to studying the human brain and behavior. By conducting experiments and analyzing data, researchers in this field uncover valuable information that helps us understand how people develop and deal with social issues. This ongoing research continues to expand our knowledge and improve various aspects of life. Next, forensic psychology. Forensic psychology is a branch of psychology that has become very important and useful. Forensic psychologists have many different jobs and responsibilities. They work with victims of sexual assault and child abuse, helping them cope with their experiences and providing support. One of their key tasks is to assess the psychological condition of these victims. This means they talk to them, listen to their stories, and try to understand how their experiences have affected their mental health. Sometimes forensic psychologists also help prepare these victims to give testimony in court, making sure they are ready to speak about their experiences in a legal setting. Forensic psychologists also work with criminals. They evaluate the mental state of people who have committed crimes to determine if they are mentally fit to face certain punishments. This involves a lot of careful examination and analysis. For instance, they might assess whether a criminal understood what they were doing at the time of the crime, or if they were influenced by a mental illness. Another important role of forensic psychologists is to provide expert opinions in court. They might testify about a criminal's mental state or offer insights into the psychological aspects of a case. Their expertise helps judges and juries make informed decisions about guilt, innocence, and appropriate sentencing. Additionally, forensic psychologists often work with law enforcement agencies, helping to create profiles of criminals or advising on interrogation techniques. They might also conduct research to improve methods of dealing with criminal behavior and victim support. Forensic psychology is a vital field that combines psychology and law. Forensic psychologists help victims of crimes, assess the mental health of criminals, and provide valuable insights in legal cases. Their work ensures that both victims and offenders receive the psychological attention they need, and they play a crucial role in the justice system. Next, health psychology. In the human body, everything is connected. This is why health psychology is so important. Health psychology studies how psychology, behavior, social factors, and biology all work together to affect our overall health and illness. Health psychologists look at how our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors influence our health. For example, they might study how stress affects our immune system, or how our attitudes towards exercise and diet can impact our physical well-being. They also consider social factors, such as how relationships and social support can help us stay healthy or recover from illness. One of the main goals of health psychology is to promote health and well-being. Health psychologists work on developing ways to help people adopt healthier lifestyles. They create programs and strategies to encourage people to eat better, exercise more, and avoid harmful behaviors like smoking or excessive drinking. They also focus on improving mental health, which is closely linked to physical health. In addition to promoting good health, health psychology is also about treating and preventing diseases and illnesses. Health psychologists work with doctors and other healthcare professionals to develop better treatment plans for patients. They might help patients cope with chronic illnesses, manage pain, or adhere to medical advice and treatments. Health psychologists also play a role in preventing illness. They study what causes certain diseases and find ways to reduce the risk. For example, they might develop public health campaigns to educate people about the importance of vaccinations or the dangers of unhealthy eating habits. Health psychology is a field that looks at how our mind, behavior, social environment, and biology all contribute to our health. By studying these connections, health psychologists help promote healthier lifestyles, improve treatments, and prevent diseases. Their work is crucial in helping people live healthier and happier lives. Next, personality psychology. As we mentioned earlier, this branch of psychology focuses on studying personalities and how they develop over time. Researchers in this field look at all the factors that influence the development of a person's personality. They study everything that might affect personality, from genetic influences to life experiences and social interactions. Personality psychology aims to understand how and why people develop certain traits and behaviors. For instance, they might explore why some people are naturally more outgoing and sociable, while others are more introverted and reserved. They also look at how personality traits can change over a person's lifetime and what causes these changes. In addition to studying the traits themselves, personality psychologists examine the various influences on personality development. These influences include genetic factors such as the traits we inherit from our parents, as well as environmental factors, like the experiences we have and the people we interact with. They also consider cultural influences, such as the values and norms of the society we live in, and how these shape our personality. Researchers in this field collect detailed information about different aspects of personality and its development. They use a variety of methods, including surveys, experiments, and observations, to gather data and analyze it. This helps them build a comprehensive understanding of personality and its complexities. Personality psychology is just one of many branches of psychology that are becoming more popular over time. As our understanding of the human mind and behavior grows, more people are interested in learning about how personality works and what factors influence it. This growing interest is leading to more research and new discoveries in the field. Personality psychology is the study of how personalities develop and change over time. It looks at the various factors that influence personality, including genetics, experiences, and social interactions. This branch of psychology, like many others, is gaining popularity as people become more interested in understanding the complexities of human behavior. Next, difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. Recently, people have been having a very important discussion about the differences between psychologists and psychiatrists. These two professions seem quite similar, and because of this, many people get confused about what each one does. While it is true that psychologists and psychiatrists have a lot in common, there are also some important differences between them. In this chapter, we will explain what psychologists do, what psychiatrists do, and how they are different from each other. Next, in terms of degree. When we talk about the degrees needed to become a psychologist or a psychiatrist, it's clear that these two fields are very different. The education a person needs to become a psychologist is completely different from what is needed to become a psychiatrist. To become a psychologist, a person has to start by studying psychology as their main subject during their undergraduate years at college. After completing their undergraduate degree, they need to earn a doctorate degree in psychology, which usually takes another 5 to 6 years of study. But that's not all. Before they can start working as a psychologist, they must complete an internship that lasts at least 2 years. The exact requirements for this internship can vary depending on the state, but the general idea is similar everywhere. On the other hand, the path to becoming a psychiatrist involves going to medical school because a psychiatrist is actually a medical doctor who specializes in mental health. This means that the educational journey for a psychiatrist is quite different from that of a psychologist, and it involves a lot of medical training. While both psychologists and psychiatrists work in the field of mental health, the degrees and educational paths they follow are very distinct from each other. While you are working on your psychology degree, you can choose to specialize in a specific area of psychology. To do this, you will need to take some additional courses that focus on that specialty. For example, if you want to become a psychoanalyst, you will need special training beyond your general psychology education. On the other hand, the path to becoming a psychiatrist is a bit different. To be a psychiatrist, you must first study medicine and become a medical doctor, This means attending medical school, which is not required for psychologists. Many people get confused about the main difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. The biggest difference is that a psychiatrist can prescribe medication, while a psychologist cannot. We will explain this difference more in the next sections. To become a psychiatrist, you start by going to medical school. After finishing medical school, you must complete a residency, which is a type of on-the-job training. This residency lasts for 4 years and is done in the psychiatry department. Once you complete your residency, you have to pass an exam to become a licensed psychiatrist who can practice medicine. This process ensures that psychiatrists have the medical knowledge and skills needed to treat mental health conditions with both therapy and medication. Next, how they deal with their patients. When it comes to psychologists, they can't prescribe medicine. Instead, they focus on non-medicated treatments like talking to patients, providing counseling, and monitoring their thoughts and feelings to help with their overall mental health. These methods are the main ways psychologists help their patients. Imagine someone lying on a couch, talking about their problems while the doctor listens and takes notes. This is a typical scene of how a psychologist works. They use these conversations to understand and treat their patients. Psychiatrists, on the other hand, primarily treat mental disorders and can prescribe medications. If a psychiatrist believes a patient needs counseling or someone to talk to for emotional support, they might refer the patient to a psychologist. Psychiatrists step in when there is a mental disorder that requires medical treatment. They can prescribe medications to help manage these disorders. While psychiatrists do talk to their patients and offer emotional support, their approach is different from that of psychologists because they also use medical treatments. Psychologists and psychiatrists often work together. A psychologist might refer a patient to a psychiatrist if they believe the patient needs medication that they cannot prescribe. Similarly, a psychiatrist might refer a patient to a psychologist for additional counseling and support. This collaboration ensures that patients receive comprehensive care tailored to their specific needs. Next, in terms of earning. Today, there isn't a huge difference between the earnings of a psychiatrist and a psychologist. However, psychiatrists typically earn a bit more because they deal with more complex cases and have a medical degree. This degree allows them to prescribe medication, which is part of the reason they usually make more money each year compared to psychologists. Psychologists often work with different types of patients, focusing on talk therapy and counseling rather than medical treatments. Because of the nature of their work and the types of patients they see, their earnings might be slightly less on average. This information is based on general statistics, but it's important to note that there are exceptions. For instance, a psychologist who becomes very famous or well-regarded might attract more patients and, as a result, earn more than some psychiatrists. Earnings can vary widely depending on factors like reputation, location, and the specific services offered. It's important to understand that in professions like being a psychologist or a psychiatrist, money should not be your main focus. What really matters is your passion for the work. You should choose the path that interests you the most. That's why we have explained everything in detail, so you can make an informed decision. When deciding whether to become a psychologist or a psychiatrist, think about what you enjoy and what you're passionate about. Don't let the potential earnings be the deciding factor. These careers are more about helping people and providing a valuable service to society. If you are mainly interested in making a lot of money, these professions might not be the right choice for you. Your commitment to helping others and your passion for mental health should guide your decision. Next, themes of psychology. Like we explained the different branches of psychology, there are certain themes of psychology as well. These themes are basically the different aspects of psychology through which we look at it. Those are as under unconscious mind. The unconscious mind, also called the subconscious mind, plays a big role in our everyday actions. A lot has been said about this topic. The main idea is that there are certain things people do without even thinking about them. For instance, the way you speak and your accent are things you picked up naturally without trying. Now, when you talk, you don't have to think about how you're speaking. It just happens automatically. The discussion around this is that some experts believe that these subconscious behaviors can be learned and developed over time. They think that with enough practice, certain actions or habits can become part of our unconscious mind. On the other hand, some doctors argue that these behaviors are innate and that no amount of practice can make something a part of your unconscious mind. In simpler terms, there is a debate about whether we can train our subconscious to adopt new habits, or if it only controls actions that we are naturally inclined to do without thinking. Next, personality. Personality is another important theme studied in psychology. It refers to the pattern of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that make up who we are. There's been a lot of debate about personality because different experts have different ideas about what shapes it. Some believe that many factors contribute to building a personality. For example, they think that our childhood experiences, the environment we grew up in, and how we have been treated throughout our lives all play a role in shaping our personality. Others focus on trait analysis, which looks at specific traits that define personality. According to some theories, there are 3 major traits that determine personality, while other theories suggest there are more. In short, personality is a very complex topic with many different viewpoints. It's a subject that continues to be studied and discussed because there is no single agreed-upon way to understand it fully. Next, motivation. In philosophy, motivation has a different meaning, but in psychology, it is understood in a specific way. You can think of motivation as a combination of all your instincts coming together to create a powerful driving force. This force is what we call motivation. To keep it simple, basic needs like hunger, thirst, sexual desire, and fear are all examples of motivations for a typical person. These basic motivations lead to more complex motivations. For instance, humans have a need to feel safe, loved, included, and appreciated. These needs are secondary motivations that are connected to the basic ones. There are many factors that influence motivation, and it's a topic that can be discussed in great detail. But at its core, motivation is about the forces that drive us to do what we do, starting from basic needs and extending to more complex desires. Next, development. Development is a really important area of study, which is why there's a whole branch of psychology dedicated to it. The main goal of studying development is to understand how the human mind changes from the moment we are born until we grow older. We want to know why these changes happen and how they affect who we are as people. In this field, we look at all kinds of development, social, moral, and neural. We're interested in understanding how people grow and learn throughout their lives. Researchers have come up with many interesting ways to study development. For example, when studying children, researchers create fun games and activities for them to enjoy while observing their behavior. There are also new techniques to study the development of infants, like using advanced technology to monitor their brain activity. Additionally, researchers study important stages of life, like adolescence and old age, because these times are crucial for understanding how people develop and change over time. By studying development, psychologists hope to gain insights into how we become the people we are. Next, environment and heredity. We all understand how important genes and the environment are in shaping who we become as people. When studying someone's personality, you can't overlook these 2 factors. You might have noticed certain behaviors that are only seen in specific regions and not elsewhere. This could be because of various reasons, including environmental influences or genetic factors. Let's take an example to understand this better. If a woman is clinically depressed, there's a higher chance that her children might also develop the same disorder. There are 2 main reasons for this connection. First, the children might become depressed because they grow up in an environment where their mother is always feeling down. Second, there could be a genetic predisposition to the disorder, meaning the children inherit a higher risk of developing depression from their mother. When conducting psychological studies, it's crucial to consider both genes and the environment. These factors interact in complex ways to shape who we are and how we behave. By understanding their influence, psychologists can gain valuable insights into human behavior and mental health. Next, mind and body. Finally, a lot of research has been done on how your body affects your mind and your overall happiness and satisfaction. Psychologists can suggest exercises or postures that can make you feel better inside. This is really important for your overall well-being. You don't have to be a patient to benefit from this. You can simply ask your doctor about exercises that can help you feel relaxed and calm. This also includes the benefits of smiling and simple daily activities that can be very helpful for you. We've mentioned some basic themes that psychology follows, and we hope you have a better understanding of the topic. We'll delve deeper into these topics in the upcoming chapters. Next, psychosocial stages of a human. We'll be concentrating on human development, and for those who aren't psychologists, we want to provide detailed explanations that are easy to understand without getting too technical. We'll take you through the different stages of human development, starting from infancy and covering all the way to old age. Our main goal is to explain the fundamental characteristics that people develop as they grow older. By doing this, we hope to give you a clear picture of how humans change and develop throughout their lives. Stage 1. Infancy, birth to 18 months. Basic trait, trust versus mistrust. This stage is critical for a child to develop one of the two traits mentioned earlier. But how can an infant do this? It's simpler than you might think. At this age, the main interaction between caregivers and infants revolves around feeding. If you consistently provide nourishment and take good care of your child, they will develop trust in you and depend on you. However, if you neglect your responsibilities or fail to provide adequate care, your child may develop mistrust toward you. It's important to remember that even though infants may not be able to communicate verbally, they are still sensitive to the care and attention they receive. So it's crucial to ensure you're meeting your child's needs and not underestimate their ability to perceive and respond to your actions. Stage 2. Early childhood 2, 3 years. Basic trait, autonomy vs shame and confusion. Even though we might not think it's a big deal, children at this age need to feel like they have some control over their physical needs. The key thing to focus on during this stage is toilet training. Teaching them to use the toilet independently helps them gain confidence and a sense of autonomy. If you successfully train them, they'll feel proud of their achievements and become more self-assured. But if you don't teach them properly, they may start to feel ashamed and doubt themselves and their abilities. It's crucial to prevent this from happening by providing the necessary support and guidance during toilet training. Stage 3. Before school 3-5 years. Basic trait, initiative vs guilt. At this age, children become curious explorers, eager to test their abilities and influence their surroundings. It's important to give them the freedom to do so. One common issue arises when adults constantly restrict children's actions, often because they make a mess. When children are constantly stopped from exploring, they start to feel guilty and hesitant to take initiative. This can stifle their creativity and hinder their development. While it's okay to set limits when necessary, it's crucial to allow children to explore and experiment as much as possible. This freedom is vital for their young minds to develop and grow in a healthy way. By encouraging exploration, we support children in discovering their interests, developing skills, and building confidence. Stage 4. School-going age, 6 to 11 years. Basic trait, industry versus inferiority. This is the stage when children begin attending school, stepping out of the familiar environment of their homes. Regardless of how confident they may have been at home, school presents new challenges. At home, children are often the center of attention, but in school they encounter many other kids like them. They must navigate social interactions and meet academic expectations, which can be overwhelming for some. For some children, this transition to school can cause distress. They may feel pressure to prove themselves to their peers and teachers. If they struggle or fail to meet these expectations, they may start to feel inferior to others, which isn't a pleasant experience for them. It's important to support children during this transition period and help them adjust to the new environment. By providing encouragement, reassurance, and guidance, we can help them build confidence and navigate the challenges of school more effectively. Stage 5, adolescence 12 to 18 years. Basic trait, identity versus role confusion. This phase of life is incredibly important. Teenagers are in the process of forming social connections and trying to find where they fit in. If they succeed in establishing their own identity, they'll stay true to themselves and their values. But if they struggle to do so, they may start to feel insecure and unsure about who they are. This can lead to low self-esteem and a desire to mimic others who they think are cool, causing them to lose sight of their own identity. Stage 6, young adulthood, 19 to 40 years. Basic trait, intimacy versus isolation. This stage of life is filled with energy and vulnerability. Young adults have a strong desire to build intimate relationships and maintain them over time. If they succeed in forming lasting connections, these relationships can endure for a lifetime. However, if they struggle to establish meaningful relationships, they may feel lonely and isolated from others. This period is crucial for developing the foundations of lifelong relationships. Stage 7, mid-adulthood, 40 to 65 years. Basic trait, generativity versus stagnation. During this stage of life, individuals face the dual pressures of work responsibilities and fulfilling the needs of their families. Everyone strives to manage these demands to the best of their abilities. Those who succeed often feel a sense of accomplishment and pride, believing they've made a positive impact on their lives. However, for those who struggle to meet these obligations, feelings of worthlessness may arise, leading them to seek fulfillment in other pursuits. Stage 8, maturity, 65 to death. Basic trait, self-assured versus despair. As people reach this stage of life, they tend to reflect on their past accomplishments and experiences. Those who feel they've lived a meaningful life often feel happy and proud of themselves. On the other hand, those who believe they haven't achieved what they wanted or haven't done much may start to feel bitter and experience feelings of despair. These stages of life are common to all human beings who live long enough to reach this age. It's a natural part of the journey of life. We've aimed to simplify these stages to give you a quick overview of what people might feel as they go through different phases of life. Our goal is to help you understand how individuals may be experiencing life at different ages, so you can interact with them more effectively. With this basic understanding, you can show more empathy towards others, recognizing and acknowledging the unique challenges and emotions they may be facing. This ability to connect with others on a deeper level is a key aspect of what psychologists do. Applications of psychology in everyday life. You probably already know that psychology has many practical uses in our everyday lives. You don't have to be a psychologist to benefit from understanding people better. Even with just a basic knowledge of psychology, you can improve your interactions and relationships with others. In this chapter, we'll explore some of the key ways psychology is applied in our daily lives. By learning about these applications, you can gain insights into how psychology can be used to enhance various aspects of your life. Let's dive into the important applications of psychology that are relevant to our daily experiences. First, stay motivated. At some point in life, we all find ourselves lacking motivation and needing a boost to get back into action. If you have a basic understanding of cognitive psychology principles, you can effectively help yourself. For example, when trying to adopt a new habit or break a bad one, you can motivate yourself by setting goals and rewarding yourself when you achieve them. There are many small techniques you can use to stay motivated, and knowing these can make a big difference in your ability to keep moving forward. Second, be the leader. Whether you're a natural-born leader or not, understanding some basic psychology can greatly enhance your leadership abilities. There's been extensive research on this topic, and we've gleaned a few insights that can assist you in honing your leadership skills. For instance, it's important to value and encourage creative ideas from your team members. Allow them to express their opinions freely, but ultimately, you should make the final decisions. Collaborate with your team to brainstorm solutions to problems. By following these simple tips, you can become a more effective leader, earning the respect of those you lead. Third, improve your communication skills. Communication is essential for everyone, and it's more than just speaking or writing. Non-verbal communication, like gestures and eye movements, actually plays a significant role. Research shows that it's even more important than verbal communication. Your hand movements, eye contact, and changes in tone all convey messages. To communicate effectively, it's crucial to pay attention to these non-verbal cues. Remember to maintain eye contact and observe the non-verbal signals of others during conversations. By being aware of both verbal and non-verbal communication, you can improve your overall communication skills. Fourth, understand the people around you. Developing strong professional and personal relationships requires a deep understanding of each other. To achieve this, it's crucial to first understand your own emotions. Only then can you begin to comprehend the emotions of others. This ability to see situations from different perspectives is known as emotional intelligence. Some psychologists argue that emotional intelligence, or EQ, is even more important than intelligence quotient, or IQ. One way to enhance your emotional intelligence is by keeping a journal where you write down your reactions to various situations. By reflecting on your own emotions, you can gain insights into why you feel a certain way. Additionally, observe the reactions of others and try to understand their emotions. This process can help you develop empathy and improve your ability to connect with others on a deeper level. Fifth, get better at deciding things. Drawing from research in cognitive psychology can greatly improve your decision-making abilities. As humans, it's normal to feel overwhelmed when faced with major decisions. Instead of stressing out, consider following tips from psychologists. For instance, you can utilize the 6 thinking hats approach when making decisions. This method involves considering various aspects of a decision, including the creative, emotional, rational, positive, negative, and intuitive aspects. By carefully considering each of these factors, you can make more informed decisions. Taking the time to evaluate all angles of a decision can be especially helpful when faced with important choices in life. So next time you're confronted with a significant decision, remember to apply these strategies to make the best choice possible. Sixth, improve your memory. Memory is incredibly valuable to our minds and plays a vital role in our lives. Fortunately, psychology offers various techniques to help improve memory over time. By following simple tips, you can enhance your memory with ease. One effective strategy is to minimize distractions while learning. This allows you to focus your full attention on the material, making it easier to remember. Additionally, repetition is key. Repeating what you've learned helps reinforce the information and embed it in your memory. These are just a few examples of techniques that can boost your memory. By incorporating these strategies into your learning routine, you can gradually improve your memory and enhance your overall cognitive abilities. And lastly, be more productive. You've probably heard a lot about multitasking and being productive, but it turns out much of it is just talk without any real evidence to back it up. To truly understand why, you need to delve into the complexities of how the mind works, which is where psychology comes in handy. Simply put, multitasking can actually harm your performance. It's been shown that trying to do multiple tasks at once can significantly reduce both your speed and accuracy. So, instead of trying to juggle multiple things simultaneously, it's best to focus on one task at a time and eliminate any distractions. By concentrating on one task at a time, you'll likely find that you're much more productive and efficient. These are just some of the basic principles of psychology that can help improve your productivity, even if you only have a basic understanding of the subject. Thank you for listening.